develop a Star Trek beginning for that one episode.
For
Jeremy
Roberts. Yeah. So when he comes on, I would like to go back to using Fiverr. I don't know if you're familiar with Fiverr.com. Oh, yeah. So I used him. I used a guy on there for years that used to do the introduction to the Brian and Sherry show. Mm-hmm. That was his voice, Josh. So I'm looking into having a new opening for this show, like made by somebody else who actually knows what they're doing. So yeah, I might have a Star Trek one. I'm not sure. That would be pretty cool. So welcome everyone. Don't mind us chit-chatting. It's Thursday. You're stuck with us for the next hour or so. So Brian here, and of course I'm joined by my co-host and friend. And what?
By Dan. Me.
By Dan. Yes, Daniel Payton.
I'm part of a game night that I host every week, but I didn't start hosting it until recently. But in this game group, there are two other Dans. And the crazy thing is that we all know each other. We all call each other Dan. And I can say the name, like Dan, do this, and they will know which one I'm talking to. But we all go by Dan. You know, the Dan has Daniel, Danny, or Dan. But we all just can go by Dan. And it confuses the heck out of other people, and I think that's hilarious. So it's kind of a weird thing, but I'm surrounded by my name constantly.
I've never had a friend with the same name as me.
Probably not that uncommon.
Yeah, nope. No, so, as funny as that sounds. So, yeah. Hello to my sister. What's up? She seems to be the only one here. So we're waiting for a few more people.
That makes you extra special, Ashley.
That's right. Number one. I told her, I said, you better be watching the show tonight. So, yeah. Yeah. Speaking of shows, how's yours going?
Doing pretty good. I'm having fun going through the story. Part of the fun of doing the story is I get to edit and work on it before I do the reading and recording. And I haven't touched this story probably in 2 years or more. So I'm going back to it. To me, it's new. I've written and read so much stuff between then. When I'm reading this and editing, I'm like, oh, what's happening next? I know how it ends, but I forget how I get there. So I'm enjoying it as much as the people listening, or I hope they're enjoying it as much as I am.
Yeah. Absolutely. Welcome to my aunt. Oh, everyone is showing up all at once, I see. My aunt is here. My sister, Kayla. Hello, welcome. Welcome. So, yeah.
Kayla, Amber, Ashley, we need more people coming on here so we can ask questions. We don't have a guest tonight, so we're going to ask you some questions, hopefully.
Yeah, Barbara is here. My grandmother is here. Welcome. Yeah, no guest, unfortunately. And then next week, the show, I will be pretty much live and on location from Cape Cod. So that's where I will be next week. I'll be on vacation. I just got to get to Sunday. Sunday is the home stretch, and then my vacation starts Wednesday. So, and I'll be off for a whole week.
Must be nice.
Yeah, it's going to be nice. Paid. So.
That's extra nice. Yeah, unfortunately, when you're a freelancer like I am, you don't really have paid time off for vacation periods. It's just you kind of throw everything away for a few days and run from it until you have to come back.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Nope. I've been waiting for this. I need it. Oh, do I need it? So I'll be in the Cape for 4 days. So, and one of those days happens to fall on a Thursday. So I will be doing the show. Did you watch the last one I did when I was out there?
I think so. Didn't you have connection issues?
I was. I'm so glad you remembered that. Yeah, I was. as a matter of fact. Yeah, because I was outside. So I will be testing the internet first before I commit to a show, but I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to have any issues. So, yeah. And it'll be cool because two of my aunts who watch the show here will be in the room with me. So they won't have to go online and watch this time. So
maybe they can be guests.
that's true. That is true. Well, yeah. And Damien as well. He'll be watching. So, yeah. It's going to be a fun night. I have no idea what I'm going to do or talk about. Well, I'm pretty sure I'll talk about whatever I've been doing while I'm there. So I can at least do that, right?
Yeah.
Kayla, yay, vacation. My sister Kayla is also going on vacation, apparently. We're going to California. We are driving, from Texas to California. We're going to Hollywood Studios.
Where are you going with her?
I am not going with her. No, I wish, but she is driving. She is driving from Oklahoma to, I believe, Texas, right? Yes. And then from picking up some friends, and then from Texas, they're going up to California. So that's
drive.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, Universal Studios, and to see American Horror Story House out there. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. You don't watch American Horror Story, do you? No, I don't either. So yeah. No thanks. But she is obsessed with this show. A lot of people are. I don't see it, but
the closest I've ever been to a house that was in a horror movie was they filmed the Evil Dead movies, the first few, in a small house just north of where I lived in Tennessee, because that's where Bruce Campbell and his crew all filmed it right there. And so I knew the farmer who owned the land and the house they filmed it in. Every year they'd have a whole bunch of kids come out at Halloween and want to set up a movie projector in the house, side of the wall, and do this big Halloween showing of the Evil Dead. And he didn't like them on his land, so it was always this fight. But that's the closest I've ever been to like a horror location. Hello, Heather and Patrick.
Do you like those type of movies, like those zombie, like the world was ending? Like, because I'm a fan of Dawn of the Dead, the original.
Yeah.
Because I shop in the mall that it was filmed in, so it's kind of, yeah.
It's a given.
Yep, absolutely.
No, I never really have been. No. Just not my genre. Just not something I enjoy. I can appreciate it, but
yeah,
it's not something I'm going to run after.
No, it is not a favorite of mine, but I don't mind watching them. So, yeah. My sister Heather is here. Welcome. And Patrick. Hey, Pat. What's up? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and share this video. Everyone needs to watch this because they just do. I said so. Make sure to share it, like it, love it, do whatever. And this is also being recorded live on YouTube as well. So,
hello, YouTube.
Hello, YouTube. So if anyone has any questions for Dan or I about anything,
we'll try to think of an answer. And if we don't know the answer, we'll say something completely wrong with confidence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see here. Heather, I did a Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios. So I'm assuming that you been to a Universal Studios at all ever?
No, actually I have not.
Okay. All right.
I want to. Actually, I really do want to go. I'd love to go to the one in Florida where they have the Harry Potter stuff all set up. I'd love to go to that one.
I've always thought about it. I do like Harry Potter, and I'm just not a roller coaster rider, so sometimes those places really just don't make any sense to me. I like the fact that it's probably why I'm a Disney fan. Well, besides Mickey and all that, but anyways, there's a lot more rides that are not roller coasters, so it would be nice, I think, to visit, but to at least see it.
I living in East Tennessee for so many years, I lived right by Dollywood, and I love Dollywood, and I've been to Disney World, and the same thing holds true to both of them. They're not just the rides. There's a
Right.
lot more to them. There's a lot more stuff you can do and enjoy. I've
Yeah.
been to Kings Island and Cedar Point, places that are theme parks, Silver Dollar City and Frontier City, and they're great. They're fun. They're exciting. But literally, it's just ride next to ride next to ride. If you don't like roller coasters and bumper cars and swings, you're just kind of be sitting there in the heat, kind of waiting for them to be done. Whereas like
Yeah.
both Dollywood and Disney World, one thing that they both have is there's a lot of the park that's entertainment, music and shows. There's shopping, little fun places you go, pictures, parks, things you can do that's not just in a ride. Now, I love roller coasters. Don't get me wrong. I am a roller coaster nut, and I will go ride those. So that's why I was at Cedar Point and why I've been to actually Six Flags. Yeah, it's been there. Kings Island, which is over here near Cincinnati and all. I
Mhm.
love roller coasters. So yes, the rides do get me, but I do appreciate and really enjoy a park that really tries, puts itself out there, has a lot of you go in the park and it's an experience.
Right. Yeah.
It really is an experience, and that's where Dollywood had that, and so did Disney World. They
Yeah.
both were a whole lot more than just let's get on a ride, get in line, get on a ride, get in line, get on a ride. So I can appreciate that. So that's why for me, I want to Universal Studios. My first thought is I want to go see Diagon Alley. I want to go see the Harry Potter stuff. My thought isn't I want to go ride the rides. Now I will, of course, but I want to see all the fun stuff too, all the entertainment.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. I've been there. Um, that was a long time ago. Whew. So I did a lot of interesting rides there. Some cool rides. I don't even think they have them anymore. But yeah, maybe I should go one of these days. But I feel like I was cheating because I go to Disney all the time. So I would be a cheater. But yeah, I can meet the Grinch.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you go during Christmas time. But yeah, but anyways, I don't even know where did that even come from?
We're going to Universal Studios for
That's
camp.
right, Universal Studios. Yeah. So yeah, so she's doing some traveling too. So yeah, so that'll be nice. Chris Evans, welcome.
Chris, howdy, Chris.
Nice to see you. How is I haven't seen what's his name from England on
Jim.
Yeah, Sanders. What is it? Jim
Jim
Nadler. Yeah.
I think he's doing okay. He's just
Okay.
the time difference is so far that
Yeah.
right now it's 1 or 2 in the morning for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
So it's hard for him to be on these things live. I never so often he pops up with a comment or question off of a video I've done. The next day he'll get on there and watch the recording of it. So
Hmm.
it's hard. Jim's a great fan. In fact, he just sent me a message that he got my copy of the Star Trek novel that I wrote and had printed a few copies of.
Yeah.
He wanted one, so I sent him one, and he finally got it. Because mailing from here to England takes time, and so he got it. So he's there. He's kicking. He's just unfortunately can't be live most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, we got all these people watching. So, hello. Start talking. What's everyone been doing since we've last seen you last Thursday? A lot has been going on with you, though. A lot of negotiations on trying to get a certain someone onto this show finally.
Yep, talked him into it. He was very good. It's Jeremy Roberts, and he and I talked quite a bit for the last couple months actually. But he's just mostly because he's so busy. I talked to him like, well, we'll have to schedules later. He was always very positive about coming on. It was just when. And finally, we nailed down time where we could really just talk. And he said, okay, this is my next open time period. And I said, okay, I picked a Thursday on it, and we went with it. And it's great. And the fun thing is, and I think it's a compliment to actors to say this. I see where he's been in stuff. He'll post pictures from TV shows and movies he's been in. And I'll sit there and go, oh, that's right. That was you. And, at first I thought, because I've done that to a few actors I've met where I know them from this. And then I see a picture of them on the table from another role. And I'm like, oh, that's right, that was you as well. And I felt bad. I'm like, oh, I feel stupid for saying that. But then at the other end, they're an actor. They want you to see them as different characters. They don't want you to see them everywhere they're at. They want, if they're doing their job as an actor, they're portraying this character in
Yeah.
such a way that you don't immediately just go, oh, that's Bob doing this again. Oh, there's Bob here. There's Bob there. No, you can pull it apart and you have the character. So when I see this, my brain clicks. Oh, because the face, duh, that's him. But
Yeah.
it's a totally different person here and a totally different person there. So I'm
Yeah.
seeing these different roles and everything he's been in. His list that he keeps posting is my childhood. It's
Yeah.
what I grew
Yeah.
up watching. So I'm like, oh my gosh, he's been in all this stuff I used to watch, and it's great. So and I'm really looking forward to being able to sit down and talk to him. I want to definitely talk Star Trek with him because both Brian and I are big Trekkies. But at the same time, I'd love to talk about some of his other stuff he's worked on, some of the other shows he's been in. He's been, I mean, I think one I'd like to ask about is being a Sister Act because he was kind of a pretty central character in the bar scene in the movie where she ends up in the bar. He's the one by the jukebox that gives her the money. So it's like that was a great role. That was a great part to have, even though it was one scene. It was a great part to have in that scene.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. So I want to bring this up, talk to him, because he's a character actor. He's got a big list, but every role is one here, one there. But every time, it's not just background person. He actually has a speaking part, a character name, an important part for that story. That's great. That's really cool because that's juicy. You get to do all kinds of different things, and that just sounds so much fun.
It's true. He's been in a lot of shows. Yeah. Yep.
And you guys, anybody who's listening and watching this, if you want to look him up, I'm sure Brian has shared his
oh yes,
Internet Movie Database info, whatever. Look him up, see what he's been in, and if you have questions, start putting together some questions that you can bring to the show, and we have it, so that you're ready to ask, and maybe he'll answer them before you ask. But if not, you'll have something to ask because we only have one show, so make sure you if you have questions, get in there and ask them.
absolutely. Yes. I did post because, of course, I remember him in the undiscovered country. So in the opening scene, pretty much of the movie. So, and I put the YouTube video. I found the YouTube video of that scene. So I love that scene. On our Facebook page to give people a sense of who he was. If you don't know who we're talking about, or maybe it'll jog your memory or something. So I'll find more roles that he's been in and I'll post them to kind of show people what he's been in. So the Sister Act one, I think that's easy to find anyways, but yeah. And then his IMDb page, which every actor has one. You can see a total list of everything they've ever been in, what character it was, usually what episode, like it narrows everything down for you. And you can take a look at that as well. I've also posted that. Those are very important. Yeah.
Now he played the same role in the episode of Voyager, in which Tuvok goes back into his memories of being on Excelsior, and because his character is kind of pivotal to the whole scene. And I'm interested in getting to that because they brought him back to play his character, and they gave his character a full story arc right there. Yeah. So I'm kind of, as the writer, I'm like, this is cool. What it was like saying, have someone come to you, well, this is the role you played for 5 minutes in a movie 6 years ago. We're bringing him back and giving him basically the centerfold of the episode.
Well, I mean, it wasn't just him that they brought back. They brought back mostly, mostly all the people that were on the bridge at that time. But I mean, I'm surprised in some ways that they actually did that because you could tell they're so much older than, when they were in the movie. But it was cool nonetheless to see the same people, So it was very, very interesting. So, and to be in Voyager, my favorite Star Trek series.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that episode was one the Voyager did that one, and then DS9 did Trials and Tribulations. They were both a throwback to the original series because that was the 40th anniversary of Star Trek that
Right.
year.
Yeah.
And so they both played their homage to him through their time travel episodes.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. It was a great episode. It's one of my favorite from Voyager because it really does. They get to pick up part of the story you didn't see, and you do get to revisit a lot of characters that you liked, and it was great. After that episode, I know that George Takei said that they had talked about doing another spin-off series called Excelsior, and it was going to be set in the original series time, post that movie, post Undiscovered Country, but showing the adventures of the Excelsior.
Mm.
And he was all on board for it, but Paramount kept teetering on whether they do it, and instead they decided to do Enterprise. And I personal opinion, then they dropped the ball there. They had something great to do with Excelsior. I didn't think Enterprise did as well as Excelsior would have done, in my opinion.
Only lasting 4 seasons.
Yeah.
I watched it. I watched it all. It could have kept going. It really could have, but something happened. People just were not happy with that show. So, yeah, I didn't mind it too much, but it's not my go-to. I don't really watch it. So unless I'm totally bored, I'll watch that. But yeah.
That's a good question to the people who are watching here. I do this all the time too because I'm either doing art, stitching, something I want to have something in the background. You go to streaming and you pick out an old show that you can watch a dozen episodes without having to really think about it because you've seen it 100 times. Mm. What's your favorite go-to background TV show you'll throw on Netflix or Hulu or something that you want to stream? I love anything that's I can do like from Phineas and Ferb on Disney. I can always throw it on because I can listen to the background to Star Trek episodes. Mm-hmm. I love Lucy, any of that kind of stuff I can do in the background. But a Hulu, now that I've got Hulu going, I can always pick up something like I Love Lucy or what was I been watching on there? Oh, Mom and I have been watching Pokemon episodes from the series.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Is that considered anime?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not the same as traditional anime, but it's definitely from the anime studios.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've never seen it, so I know what it is. I know who, whatever, but I've never watched it. So.
Yeah, I gotta laugh. That was someone the other day asked me, "Oh, did they make a TV show from this?" I'm like, "The show's been on for 24 years."
Yeah. Yeah.
The cartoon show has been on for 24 years, so. Yes.
That is true. It's been on for a very long time. Yep. Pokemon. Yep.
Chris Evans says Bakula did well with the part, and it could have went on longer, but I feel they ended it.
Bakula. Yeah, Bakula did. He kind of did. Yeah, they kind of did end it okay, I guess. It was a cool ending. I think if they ended it any other way, it just would have been even worse, I think. So, because the ending scene was, them, they're in the holodeck, and they just close the file. So, and then you see, what is it?
Riker.
Riker, yes. Walking away or walking out of the holodeck. So, I mean, yeah, but still, it still could have went on. But I think that they were having problems and something.
The show tanked.
Yeah, that too, and I think that's what started it. They just knew that it's done, it's over with. So, but I'm glad that all these other ones are coming on. Janeway is reprising her role in an animated series. I don't know how I feel about that, so I'm going to try that. I think it's, what is it, The Prodigy, or
I think that's it.
Okay, I've been watching. I don't know if you have Discovery.
No, I don't have Paramount Plus. That's so many streaming services. That's not one of them. So
I know I have so many of them. It's funny because a lot of people are finding shows that they want to watch because they're either a commercial or whatever, and you have to get that streaming service. So yeah, I pretty much have all of them. Picard. Have you been watching that?
Again,
What?
it's on Paramount Plus.
That's funny.
Those are all being streamed. That's the problem.
Dan, that's the only one you need. That's the only one you need. Get rid of those other ones. You don't need them.
No, I finally, when Enterprise first came out, I tried watching the first few episodes of it, and I was not impressed. I really didn't pick it up and stick with it. Well, actually, it was about a year ago. I decided to sit down and watch the series start to finish because I'd never seen Enterprise. And by the time I got done with it, I could tell you why it failed. The story writing was atrocious.
Yeah.
Okay. They really dropped the ball on the storyline. There was plot holes all over it. They had one storyline running that was kind of hit or miss, and then they totally threw it out the window, went with a whole other storyline for an entire season, and then came back to the other one. It was like the writers just kind of lost track of what they were doing, so they decided to go a different direction, and then they came back. And I could sit here for 3-4 hours and detail all the writing issues that I had with the show by the time it was over. And I could see it had a merciful destruction. The show ended mercifully.
Yeah, it did.
I do like the fact that how they ended the show was that they always intended the show to end with the birth of the Federation, because it wasn't during the Federation years that the Enterprise was out there. It was in the formative years of it, and it ends with the birth of the Federation. So that's what they did. And so even though there were people who complained about the last episode, I didn't. I thought that it was all right because it did exactly what they wanted it to do. They let it be the conclusion of the first mission is the development of the Federation. So, to be perfectly honest, of all the Star Trek series that I have seen, the one that had the worst, absolute worst final episode was Voyager.
How dare you?
I knew that hit.
You know, I agree with you. I agree they could have kept going with that series, but it had already been 7 years. So I think that they had just gotten to the point where, we have got to end this somehow. But a lot of people would probably agree with you. I could care either way. I really don't. It doesn't bother me.
I'm not worried about it if it could have gone on. I think it was right at that time that it was ripe for the show to be done, the story to be done. But of all the Star Trek series out there, even Deep Space Nine, which in my opinion had the best concise writing, the best developmental writing, Voyager had the only running story, the only running plot.
Yeah.
Original series, Next Gen, was just go explore. So it was episodic. Every week is a new adventure. DS9 started out with in that kind of vein, but then they created the story arc halfway through with the Dominion, which they had planned from the beginning, but they really didn't start it that way. So it was just this growing story. Voyager starts with a story. They're lost in the Delta Quadrant, trying to find their way home. That was the point of the show. That's the adamant of every cell in that show was getting home. And they could have used at least the second half of season 7 to create a story arc that would get them home. They could have done this to where it builds. It could have a complete long-running story miniseries of Voyager finally succeeding what they have been trying for 6.5 years. But instead, the writers said, we're going to do all this and then get to the last episode and then just have this time paradox come in. Janeway meets Janeway. We make Voyager impenetrable, beat the Borg, get home, and boom, it's over. No. And the biggest problem I have is it was a paradox. Janeway goes back in time to save Voyager so that Voyager doesn't have to have her go back and save it. That's a paradox. She would never go back and save Voyager. So I honestly to this day have not watched the last episode of Voyager in probably 20 years. After it came on the air and I saw it, I was so dismayed at how badly they had done. I'll watch the entire series up to the very next last episode and then just go, okay, we're starting over, because it really just sank me. I was like, no, don't do this.
Yeah, I think I've only watched it a couple of times. When I go through the series and I'll watch it either on the computer like Netflix or I used to own all the DVDs of the whole series. I finally got rid of those. I had them for years, but yeah, no, I never watched the ending. So sometimes I will. So yeah, Chris Evans. Oh, good point. Got to remember all the writer strikes around at that time, which is true.
I mean, message from people. Yeah. And that does come into play. And I can respectfully say, if you don't have good writers, then you're not going to have good story.
Absolutely. Were they going through? I think they were going through writer strikes. Now that I think it, something was happening.
Yeah, because I remember that one of my first Star Trek conventions I went to back in the day was during that period, because Enterprise was still on and Voyager had just gone off the air, and Armin Shimmerman was there as one of their key people for the Star Trek convention. He was at that time the president of the SAG, the chapter of SAG that does like the writers and the prop people, the background people, and they were all on strike because he was talking about it. They said that, and he mentioned it, and then he on stage said, okay, you can't ask any questions because we're currently in litigation, so I can't tell you anything more than we are on strike and this is why we're doing end of story. So yeah. I do remember that. So that, and it was right then. So yeah, that would have been right when to me the series was totally spiraling and bad writing, but that could be because it was somebody who's not a writer trying to create scripts.
Well, I don't know. I never cared for DS9.
I could.
I don't know why. I tried. I've watched it. I've never seen the ending. I've heard about it. I've seen it on YouTube, but I haven't like clips of it, but I haven't seen the whole thing. So I don't know. They never really went anywhere. It was a space station floating around in front of a wormhole, that would travel to the, whatever people, with the orbs or whatever the heck it was. And the characters were different. I'll give it that. You had I don't even know what he was, the tailor there.
Cardassian, Garrick.
Yeah, Cardassian. Then you had, the Ferengi, and then you had, Quarksbar. So, and he was different.
I could go into detail of why I feel that DS9 had some of the best for Star Trek, had some of the best writing. To be honest, it as a writer, from my perspective, it did, and it also had a really good ending because they did what I think Voyager should have done. They did the last two seasons as the Dominion War, and the last half of the last season was literally concluding that war, episode by episode, march toward this victory. And so when you get to the last episode, you had this very satisfactory ending where the characters, all their arcs, all their stories have come to a good conclusion that took time, not just all crammed together. But and it's funny in the Star Trek fandom, I have found you have people who like DS9 as their favorite, the others are okay, or people who just don't like DS9. I don't have any in between. They're just like, well, they're all good. That one is kind of that linchpin. You either like it or you don't like it, and I'm okay. As I said, I have differing opinions. Everybody can have their own opinion. I like Voyager. I really do like Voyager. Next Gen, original series, but DS9 is my favorite.
Yeah. I've watched it. I've just never got to the ending. The ending looks interesting, so maybe I should watch it. Maybe I should start from the beginning and watch the whole thing.
That'd be good.
I should. I've never really done that. I've only gotten to season 3 or 4 or whatever, or I'll pick out episodes and I'll read the description to see if it's like interesting enough for me to watch, and then I'll just watch that one. So, but sometimes that's a bad idea because, they're in line, so you got to watch 1 through whatever. So, Let's see. Chris Evans, good point. No ship. Meant the background stories took center stage instead. True. Some of the episodes were really good. I did enjoy them. They were interesting, but I don't know. It's just you were so used to a series are always on a ship. There's a crew. They're always flying somewheres or trying to get blown up and enemies here and there and whatever. And this one just floats. It just kind of stays in place. So
Well, they did have in the first part of the series, they had runabouts where they did a few adventures that way, but
yeah,
mostly
yeah,
on a station. And then they introduced the Defiant.
yeah,
And the writers actually did this because they wanted to put the characters out there more than always on the station. That was
right.
actually one of the reasons why. But DS9 was actually one of Gene Roddenberry's last efforts. He wrote the outline for Voyager and
There,
didn't write any episodes. He wrote the outline for it and filed that away. When he was working on Star Trek: The Next Generation in his later years, he worked directly on the scripts and production and directing in the first 2 seasons of The Next Generation. His age had made it really hard to work with him, and he was trying to make The Next Generation basically the original series in the 90s or the 80s, and it wasn't doing so well because the audience was not wanting the original series camp in 1987, 88. And so Rick Berman and Major Roddenberry both convinced Gene Roddenberry to retire from being the front man of it all and hand the keys to the kingdom to Rick Berman, while Roddenberry could go home. And Major Roddenberry, she convinced him by saying, "Well, you have this story about a space station, or we want you to work on." And so he went home and he started developing Deep Space Nine. Originally, his idea was to make it very Western, very cowboyish. And the Deep Space Nine was not going to be a space station, it was going to be a planetary spaceport on Bajor. Dusty, Western. And from there, they'd launch ships and do stuff, but it would be on the planet. And when in his original couple scripts that he created for that, both his wife and Rick Berman were looking at him going, well, this has some potential, but you're going to lose your audience because Star Trek fans want to be in space. They want it to be in space. And so they convinced him to move it to a space station. But if they'd gone with his original idea, the show would have been planet side. It would have been literally on a planet the whole time with just a few here and there missions off the planet. And I think that would have killed it.
oh,
That
probably.
And Star Trek, one of the reasons why Rick Berman gave a big thumbs up to doing a space station was because at the same time they were developing the series, another TV series was coming on that was to challenge Star Trek called Babylon 5, which was on a space station.
Right.
And so Star Trek was like, well, if we don't, meet this head on, then we're going to lose ratings. So they're like, that's it, space station. That's in the story is what we're going to do. And so they put him on a space station. And it gave it a different aesthetic for Star Trek having a space station because on a starship, everybody's part of Starfleet unless you're a guest there. But on space station, you have your Bajoran and Federation people, but you also have all of your civilians, Quark and Garrick and Odo, who, well, he's an alien. All these different people that play a role, but they're not just Starfleet, which is, I think, gave it a unique flavor that other Star Trek didn't have. Which I think that can be both a turn off or turn on for fans. People who want to be that militaristic style that was what Gene Roddenberry had for all the Star Trek. You don't quite have that as clear. So I can see where that comes in. Yep. Yes, it was. Although a lot of people at that time also claimed that original series had a competition with Lost in Space as well, or what was it, Twilight Zone? A lot of the speculative things they compared the two, but the original series just was leagues above them. But yeah, their big original competition was Bonanza.
I've never watched the original series straight through either.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've seen a lot of episodes, but again, episodes that that sound very interesting, I should watch them. So I'm very selective. So
I do actually
I know
recommend.
the series, but I never watched them.
I do recommend starting an episode 1 of either original series or DS9. If you want to watch it, watch them all, because you'll get the context, you'll get the character. That's one thing about DS9 that I felt they did better than all the other series combined, is that each character had a story arc that they dug into, and they developed those characters. And from episode 1 to the final episode, the characters change and grow and build. They didn't do that to me as well in the other series. And so, if you're cherry picking through it, you're going to miss that development. You're going to miss why people fall in love with this one character or that character, because you are in their life. You're following them along.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So out of all of them, who is your favorite character?
For DS9?
Okay, we'll go with DS9.
Oh, well, okay. For DS9, I would honestly say, and for different reasons than most people, I would say it's a toss-up between Dax or Odo. I loved the character of Odo because he had such an interesting story arc. They worked with him. I like Dax, but against what most sci-fi fans who love Jadzia because she was a hot girl of the day, was because I loved the idea of this symbiont that she could carry within her the memories and experiences of dozens of other people. And so she wasn't just one person. She was an amalgamation of scientists and pilots and musicians, all together, that had been her past lives. So I thought that was such a cool concept, and I loved how they worked with it. And then Odo, I again just loved his story arc. But in Star Trek in general, if I were to go and just the whole universe of Star Trek and pick out a character as my favorite, I will always say Guinan. I loved the character of Guinan.
Yeah. Absolutely. Those were good episodes. I do like them. And I'm very happy that she's returning. Mm-hmm. See, you need Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus.
We need to get sponsored here, people. Paramount, if you're listening.
Which is pretty funny because I was an affiliate of CBS All Access. And when everything switched to Paramount Plus, I don't even think that I'm an affiliate of CBS Plus anymore. So that's kind of stinky, Rooney. So yeah, Paramount Plus. Give us a free subscription or something.
I'll tell you about. Okay, Chris Evans mentions his Odo was great, favorite character. Best thing I ever learned was I met again Armin Shimmerman, who played Quark. I met him at a convention 20 plus years ago, and at the same convention, Renee Aubergenois, who plays Odo, was also there, and they got on stage together and they talked about developing their characters. And originally, the scripts of the first season had, Odo was the hard-nosed, to-the-letter lawman. He doesn't stuff. He doesn't take bribes. He's very much. Quark was the lawbreaker. He was the rebel. He was the rogue. He was the miscreant. And they butted heads. And originally, that was just going to be kind of a mild thing. He was just going to be the station smuggler, and Odo was going to be constantly trying to trip him up. Well, they realized, the actors realized there was room for this to both be comical and be very different, being complicated, not just very simple, straightforward. And so they went to the writers and they worked with them and they developed a whole different dynamic. Still the same thing, hard-nosed, straight-line lawman and smuggler deviant. But they had a relationship in a sort that was great. And the actors really played off of each other, and they'd ad-lib and they'd work the characters and they'd work the scenes together. And when they got on stage together, they were hilarious. They played off each other. They talked to each other. It was like Laurel and Hardy. They were so good. And I think that's one of the reasons why people loved them, is because they had such a good chemistry between them as actors that translated right into their characters.
My sister wants to know, what do you guys think of the Star Trek movies? It would depend on which one she's actually referring to.
Yeah.
You'll get a lot of debate from people when it comes to the movies, especially the original. People didn't exactly know what the hell was happening there. they only got better, I think, when it hit. The Wrath of Khan was good, and then
Well, yeah.
after that, I can't remember which ones, but I've seen them all. I've seen every movie. I like every movie. I don't know if I have a favorite. Um, but the newer ones are different. I know that they're making more Star Trek movies. I know that. Yeah.
I can tell you because I love Star Trek movies. I grew up on the Star Trek movies. I was born the year Wrath of Khan came out, so I love these. But for the Star Trek movies, the original series, the original movie, the motion picture,
Mm.
which came out it came out in '78. I can't remember when it came out. I can't remember. I feel bad now. I should know this. My nerddom is broken. But you seeing it?
I'm looking it up. Original movie, right? Yeah. Let's see. Which I hear they are redoing, by the way. They're remastering that. I don't know if you heard that.
I don't know.
1979.
79. Okay. Yeah, because 82
The
was
motion picture. Yes, it was released December 7th, 1979. Wow.
Star Trek the Motion Picture was actually not supposed to be. It was Gene Roddenberry had done the animated series in the 70s
Mm-hmm.
to keep Star Trek alive. But most people, especially in that time, when a show went to animation, it pretty much was dead. That was your last grasping straw of a dying series. However, Gene Roddenberry, who was brilliant at keeping things alive, he decided to start developing Star Trek Phase 2. And Star Trek Phase 2 is going to be the original cast with a slightly new Enterprise and new graphics and all, and bring Star Trek back to TV. And they started making sets, they started building new ships, they started all kinds of stuff, writing scripts for it. And he presented it to Paramount, and Paramount was teetering on yes and no, we don't know, maybe not. They couldn't decide because at that time, science fiction was flunking bad. They see here. Disney did the Black Hole. It was one of Disney's worst disaster box office movies ever. Buck Rogers came out. It was a flop. I mean, sci-fi movies were just not selling. Sci-fi series were just not selling. And so Paramount finally said, "No, I don't think we're going to do this." And then this guy came along and made a movie called Star Wars. Paramount saw Star Wars break records, and they said, "You know what? We have all these contracts to own a sci-fi series, a franchise. We'll give it a shot, but it has to be a movie." And so Gene Roddenberry took his first pilot episode for Phase 2 and turned it into the motion picture. Problem was, the pilot episode was written to be an hour long. So they had to fluff it up. They crammed a whole bunch of long scenes of him flying through the V'ger cloud and Spock's adventure out in there, all this cerebral stuff that people think, oh, that was, some people think it was acid tripping. Some people were like, oh, this is just them trying to be esoteric. Nope. It was literally just to make time because they had an hour of material and they needed at least a 2-hour movie. And so they made this movie. The problem was because they stretched an hour of material over 2 hours, it was boring. The story had, it had its merit. It was, a decent story. It definitely was Roddenberry all over the place. And it was Star Trek, which is cerebral. Star Wars was very, shooting guns and blowing up stuff. Star Trek was cerebral. But this one was just long, drawn out, and boring. And fans they went to it because it was Star Trek again. Finally, get to see Star Trek. Kirk's back on the screen. We're seeing the Enterprise. It's a new Enterprise. All this stuff made people want to come to it. And it failed. And Paramount almost said, okay, that's it. Green light's off. We're back to saying no. But then somebody else came along and said, we have another script. Roddenberry's working with us, and we want to try it again. We're going to drop so much of the esoteric cerebralness of it. We're going to write an actual movie script from the beginning, not an episode. And we're going to make this the new movie, and the fans are going to love it because we're going to bring back a character that everybody talks about, who's remembered since the show was originally on the air, Khan. And that's when Wrath of Khan came around. They remastered everything, new uniforms, new lighting, some new characters. They brought everything back to what Star Trek should feel like, and Wrath of Khan saved Star Trek. And they made the second, third, and fourth movie as a trilogy, and I love them. In fact, the fourth movie is coming back to theaters in August, and I'm already getting a ticket for it. I want to go see it.
Yeah, totally remastered. It's going to look nice.
And then then as they're working on this, by the fourth movie, Paramount and CBS had the idea of finally giving a green light to a new Star Trek series. That was The Next Generation. They actually recycled some of the sets, makeup stuff, all this from the phase 2 that never got made into The Next Generation. So there's actually bits and pieces of props and stuff in there from their attempt at the new series. And while they're working on this, Paramount was like, okay, we did the fourth movie. That's the last movie. That's it. We're done. We're going to focus on series. Roddenberry was like, no. I have a script. I want to turn a movie. Paramount gave him a total red light. We're not doing it. So Roddenberry used money of his own and people of his own to make the fifth movie, which was The Final Frontier. And it was a total Roddenberry movie. The Final Frontier movie was written, and Roddenberry admitted this, was written as his attack on religion. In fact, the original script, which I have read, the original script of it, when Kirk and the crew are on the planet where they meet God, has him meeting a person who's calling himself Jesus. And they get transported to the bridge of the Enterprise, and then Kirk gets to punch Jesus, knock him out to take over control again. I mean, it literally, that was the point. It was the whole, Captain America punching Hitler. Well, he was going to have Kirk punch Jesus. And the people working with Robin are like, let's pull back a little bit on this hate on Christian stuff you're doing with this movie, because it's not going to sell well if you do that. And so he died. He lowered it a bit, made this movie, and the fifth movie, it was more successful than the motion picture, but not by much. It really didn't do well because it was cheap. The movie was definitely a cheap movie. They redressed sets from The Next Generation just so they have sets. If you watch the movie closely, you'll see corridors and rooms from The Next Generation in this movie because they didn't have money to build new sets. They did it on a shoestring budget. And so they did that. And then a few years down the road, Paramount's like, well, we had the fourth movie as our finale, and the fifth movie really stunk it up. We want a goodbye movie for the franchise's original cast. And so they wrote The Undiscovered Country. And I think, in my opinion, The Undiscovered Country is the jewel of the original 6 movies. It's well written. The acting is superb. The setting is beautiful. The tie-ins to the next series is really cool. I mean, all the way around, it's great. I love Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, Voyage Home. Those are all great movies. That trilogy really is to set Star Trek back on the road to success. But the 6th movie for the original series, to me, well, I'm so glad it basically went on top. So that's my knowledge of the movies. I love the Star Trek movies and those original movies where I grew up with. And, they changed Star Trek. If they hadn't done Wrath of Khan, Star Trek would not be here today. The motion picture would have literally killed it, and Star Trek would have been in the past, like a lot of other stuff, like Bonanza. It would have been something that was years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
They gave it new life by trying, and I'm so glad they did.
And
I agree with Valerie when she says I like the. Okay, apparently I lost Brian. Valerie says you like the old ones better than the new ones. I agree. But I think that comes also from the fact that you are, like me, fan of what was original. What happened to you, Brian? You left me.
I hit a button on the side of my mouse, and it kind of kicked me out. I don't know what happened, but anyway, sorry about that. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my take on the movies, of the original movies. The next gen movies, they did pretty good. I think the last one they did that was pure Next Generation, which Nemesis, it was so-so. It really, they had an idea that was cool. I don't think they did good on following through. The idea of Romulans cloning Picard to try and create this arch villain was a really interesting idea. And they had this desire to bring the Romulans as a key alien race into the movies because they hadn't been represented. The Klingons have been represented, of course, humans, Vulcans, but the Romulans really had only 2 characters in the entire run up to the 9th movie, Nemesis. They only had 2 characters in all those movies. They were Romulan. And so people were like, well, bring the Romulans in. And they did. They brought them in and then killed them all. I was sitting there. I went to the movie going, cool, because Romulans were a totally different race than the Klingons, which were constant in there. There was a whole new story about them. This would be great. Very first opening scene, they die. What? Why'd you do that? So they did. That one's. I mean, again, it wasn't as bad. Motion picture really holds the torch of being the poorest Star Trek movie. Nemesis was better than that. It's watchable, but I think they could have done better, in my opinion, with Nemesis. But other than that, the next gen movies I thought were great. First Contact is by far one of my favorite Star Trek movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
They really did a great job. I love the way they portrayed the Borg, introduced the Borg Queen. Alice Krige was a great actress who just brought an amazing role to that character. You know, that ability to that character. You know, it was such a good movie. And it helped also the First Contact gave you backstory and establishment of, you know, Earth's history, this between us now and Star Trek age. So it was a great movie.
Yeah, and it happens on my birthday, April 4th.
I was gonna say your First Contact day. You
right. Yes, I am.
It was meant to be.
That's right. Yes. So I'm interested to see if anyone else has a favorite character of a show out there. So besides, if anyone has really got into a show or a movie that has, you know, multiple or a trilogy or something like that, and has a favorite character, I'd like to know who it is. So tell me who it is. So besides Star Trek, do you have a favorite character of something else?
Oh, I always like the wizard characters. And when I say that, in writing, there's a term. Wizard characters are the wise, kind of aloof character in the story. And it comes from literally the character of Gandalf was where it's based on the idea in writing. But Guinan is a wizard character. So that's one reason why I like her so much. And I know that now. When I was a kid, I loved my favorite character and realized that's why. So I'd have to say, like, for Lord of the Rings, I love Gandalf. That's my favorite character in that series. I love Gandalf. In like Harry Potter, I always love Dumbledore because that's exactly the kind of wizard, old sage, wise character.
I can see that. Yeah, I like those characters too. So yeah, absolutely. Anybody? Come on. You know you have favorite characters.
I was going to mention, Chris Evans says actually best character in DS9 was Morn. And if you watch the show, you realize Morn never talks in the show, but is constantly being referred to as a blabbermouth. And it's a running gag. But I'm going to say this, Chris, you misspelled his name. And I'm going to point that out because Morn's name is actually a play on Cheers. If you spell his name backwards, it's Norm. Hagrid. Chris Evans says Hagrid. Hagrid was a good character. Still different. I'm reading the books versus the movies. It's a slight difference in character, but he's a good character.
Yeah. Absolutely. My Aunt Val Nicole says hi. Hello. Hagrid for the win. That was a good character. It was different. So I sometimes catch myself. They'll have the marathon Harry Potter marathons on TV. So sometimes I will catch myself turning it and watching it, even though I own all of them digitally. Absolutely. And I hate it when commercials come on because I just want to keep watching it. So yeah.
Yeah, I know they put so many commercials. They're just excruciating.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do that too. I'll sit there and watch when Harry Potter comes on. I think now it's Sci-Fi Channel they played a lot. It used to be ABC Family and then Freeform. Now it's Sci-Fi. But I'll flip it on when it's on just to have in the background. But if I get interested in it, I'll go and grab my copy of it and put it in. I'll skip to the scene I was at last and watch it without commercials to finish it out.
Mm. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I can't wait until next week. So, I will be going live from Cape Cod. So hopefully everyone will tune in and we'll have a show then. History seems to be the top contender for future guests. There was also paranormal, and what was the other one? I know Star Trek made it to the list, but for some reason only me and you voted for it. That's not fair. But I'm going to try to get some, it's very difficult because I'll be very surprised if I put something out there for Star Trek, if I can get one of the authors that actually physically write those books. That would be nice. But the problem is you really can't write for Star Trek unless you do, your fan fiction or something. So it's very hard to write for that franchise. But yeah, I will put that out as well. And of course, we have future guests coming. We already know that Jeremy Roberts is going to be here for August. So that's not too far away. And we'll probably have Sylvia Shults on again at some point for when her book comes out. So, yeah. So we have some people coming on, hopefully.
Speaking of books, I get to announce, at least now, I just got my editor's copy of the 5th Dragonwand book. And what that means is I run through my edits, then I send it to the publisher. They put it through their professional editors, and they send me back the proof, which means I go through it, check all their corrections, and see whether or not I agree. And that mostly just to make sure if they change like a line, how someone says something, I say no, they would say it this way. So I have some approval, but I get to go through and check that. This is the great stage, because right now when I get that done, if I hit the approval button, I say we're done. I love it where it's at. This is when we start publishing. So very soon here, cross fingers, very soon here, the 5th Dragonwand book will be out. And I'm so excited about that. I'll get to debut it at the first conventions I finally get back to.
There you go. I'm super excited about that. So I can't wait for it to come out.
Oh, and Chris Evans has an idea we do need to think about. We got to do some kind of cooking segment.
I would sit here all night and watch you cook something, Dan. So I am up for it. Whenever you want to do something like that, go for it. But I would prefer that your finger be completely healed first. Yeah, so no sharp objects for you, sir.
Fortunately, making cookies does not require too many sharp objects. Other things do. Yeah, speaking of which, I finally got, I'm not going to show it on screen because it's kind of gnarly looking now, but I've got all the stitches taken out. I'm now just steri-stripped, banded together. So when that finally comes off, it's just going to hopefully not be too bad of a scar. This is the worst cut I've ever done in the kitchen. And my father, in his incredible sense of humor, bought me a chainmail glove to use while I'm cutting.
Is it a chainmail glove, or is it the glove?
No. This is true. Okay. This linked chainmail mini one. It's micro chainmail, and they make these for people who do cutting all day long, and in the chef in the kitchen. And you cut with the knife in this hand, which you're not going to cut this hand because the blade's in it. You're going to cut this hand because that's where you're holding something down. So you put that glove on that hand when you're holding. So it makes sense. It's just that's for somebody who's cutting like 500 carrots in an hour, and then the next are peeling a ton of potatoes. I'm only cutting a few things. It would be so arduous getting that on and off every time I'm trying to do something. So it was just a stab. Okay, bad word. It was a pun and attacking me because I have a habit of meeting the wrong end of the knife.
Yeah. No more of that. We don't need Dan losing any fingers or anything. So yeah, but cookies sound good because, I've never tried your cookies. Maybe that's what you should make. You should make some cookies and then send them to me.
I do have a Comic-Con coming up if I am still setting up all the details, but it might be here in Michigan. You could come here for that Comic-Con, and we'll do a show from my house, and I'll make fresh cookies for you.
Okay, that's something I'm going to have to think. Okay, when is this? When is this now?
It's the middle of October.
Oh boy. The middle of October. Yeah, I don't know. I might be busy in October.
I'm already busy in October.
I'm not sure. I'll have to think about that. That would be a fantastic show now that I think about it. But yeah. Oh boy, you give me a lot to think about. All right. Yeah. Put the glove in a story, Chris is saying.
I might just have to do that.
A character that's wearing a chainmail glove. Yeah, that would be fantastic. But anyways, all right. So here it is, 5 after 9. We'll let you all go until next week. Don't forget, you can still watch Dan tomorrow, correct?
Yep.
Okay. At 9 o'clock. And yeah, 8 o'clock. I'm sorry, 8 o'clock.
I moved it. 8 o'clock seems to be working good for me, so I'm going to stick with 8 o'clock.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. Well, that'll be fun. So, and I'll see everyone next week. Well, we'll both see everyone next week when I go.
I'll be right here, but he'll be in Cape Cod.
Yes, I will be on vacation. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. It'll be fun. So, and then we have Jeremy Roberts again to look forward to. So,
yep. We'll definitely be promoting what he's been in, so you can check him out. And again, as I said, I'm being quite serious. Check out what he's been in. If you have any questions about what he's done, his work, then write them down. Get them ready. We want your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So don't forget to like, share. If you are watching us from YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe, get that notification for when we go live. And again, I'll see everyone on Thursday. We'll see everyone on Thursday. Yep. So have a good night.
Yes. Good night, everybody.